something big exploded in the quiet mountains of Ladakh. Peaceful protests turned deadly, and a famous activist was arrested. Want to know exactly what happened and why? In the next few minutes, I'll explain everything about the Ladakh protests in simple language. What led up to them, who's involved, what turned things violent in late September 2025, how the government reacted, and what could happen next. By the end, you'll understand the full story without confusing words or politics speak. After 2019, Ladakh became a separate union territory, and many locals say they lost protections and control over their land and jobs. Over the years, they kept asking for stronger local rights. Those demands built up into big protests. Most protests were peaceful, until a large one in late September 2025 that turned violent, leaving people dead, many hurt, and the government putting curfews and internet limits in place. Complete timeline. In 2019, the government changed Ladakh's status. It became a union territory, which means more central control and less local power than a state. Many locals felt this took away protections they used to rely on. Since then, local groups asked for statehood, for special legal protection called the Sixth Schedule, that helps protect tribal land and jobs, and for stronger rules that make sure locals get housing and jobs first. These were not one-time protests. They kept asking over years. In 2025, activists, including a well-known campaigner named Sonam Wangchuk, held hunger strikes and large marches, trying to push the central government to act. Talks happened, but many people felt nothing real was changing. In late September 2025, a big protest in Leh turned violent. There were clashes. Some buildings and local political offices were set on fire. Police used force. At least 4 protesters died, and many were injured. The administration then put curfews and shut down parts of mobile internet to control the situation. Who's involved? Organizations like the Leh Apex Body and student and youth groups in both Leh and Kargil. These are mostly locals worried about jobs, land, and their identity. Sonam Wangchuk, an engineer and activist known for work on education and the environment. He led hunger strikes and public campaigns for statehood and protections. After the violent turn of events, he was arrested. Authorities say he helped stir things up, while supporters say he's a peaceful campaigner. Government and police, the union government and local administration who are trying to stop violence, keep order, and sometimes use strong actions like arrests and internet restrictions. They say some protesters turned violent and laws had to be enforced. Why people are protesting? Plain reason. Think of a small town where local people worry outsiders will take their land, jobs, and homes. That's the idea here. Land and culture. People want legal rules that protect local land from being taken or sold without local control. Jobs and housing. Locals worry tourists and newcomers are taking businesses and houses, making life harder for residents. Political power. They want more say over rules that affect their lives, either statehood or special protections, so local leaders make the decisions. What the government did in response: curfews and movement limits to stop more unrest, partial shutdowns of mobile internet to slow communication and reduce the spread of violence, arrests of protesters and leaders, including the high-profile arrest of Sonam Wangchuk. Reports also say tougher laws were used against some people. Administrative actions like reviewing the funding status of organizations linked to activists. Supporters call this silencing dissent. The government calls it enforcing the law. Some human rights groups say the deaths from police firing are serious and want independent investigations. The government points to arson and attacks on property as reasons for strong measures. Bottom line, both sides say they are right. Independent, transparent checks are needed so we can know who did what and why people died. Is this about the China border? Not directly. These are local politics and jobs issues. But since Ladakh is a border area, the central government is extra careful. Were the protesters violent? Most protests were peaceful before. The recent events saw clashes, stone pelting, and some arson. Who is to blame for the escalation is disputed. Will Ladakh become a state right away? No. Statehood requires big political steps in the national parliament. Protesters want it, but it won't happen overnight. Ladakh's unrest is about locals wanting stronger legal protections, jobs, and control over their land and future after the 2019 change. The movement has been mostly peaceful but turned violent recently. What happens next depends on whether the government and local leaders can reach a clear, trustworthy political deal. So to wrap up, this is not a new fight. It grew from years of worry about land, jobs, and identity after Ladakh lost certain powers in 2019. Protests built slowly. A high-profile campaign led by people like Sonam Wangchuk tried to push for change, and things sadly turned violent in late September 2025. Now the government has used curfews, internet limits, and arrests, while human rights groups ask for fair probes. The future could be a negotiated fix, or more unrest if talks don't lead anywhere. If this cleared things up, hit subscribe so you don't miss a follow-up explainer.